Hello, everybody. As you may know, today I'm in charge of presenting the last chapter, which is called Student Test Taking Strategies. So let's continue. This is the overview that I'm going to follow for this presentation. First, I'm going to talk about general thoughts, then effective test taking techniques, after that, self-assessment techniques and procedures, and lastly, students' comments. So through the years, so much attention has been given to students' test results, and now just hearing the word test truly terrifies students. This is actually a problem that many students have suffered from. And the best way to overcome this fear is providing students with appropriate and effective test-taking strategies. So let's continue with the juicy part of the presentation. Effective test-taking strategies. The first strategy is to make a study plan. Here, students have to create a schedule. In this schedule, they have to include the assignments and the due dates for each assignment. Students need to be realistic when creating this schedule. They need to keep a balance between the time they devote to studying and also their free time. You know, they're not robots, so they need time for themselves. Another important aspect when creating this schedule is that they need to find a good place to study, a quiet place, a comfortable place. And in this place, they need to have all the materials, pencil, eraser, all the material from the course, all what they need in order for them not to be distracted. Another important aspect here is that they need to set a daily study time. They need to create a habit. And so every day after going to class, they need to come home, go to this place to study, and create a specific habit. Let's say that every day they're going to start at 7 o'clock, 7 p.m. Okay? And then the last aspect is related to students, to teachers. So when teachers are creating their assessment instruments, they need to consider that, for example, for assessments like projects that are for a long term, it's important that they break up these assessments into smaller steps so that students have more preparation, more time to prepare and to deliver the assignment. The second strategy is to attend class regularly. The author mentions in the reading that low attendance is generally related to low test results. What he says is that when students miss a class, they really miss a lot. They miss the explanation in a certain topic, and they also miss the opportunity to put into practice what was explained in the class. The author also says that teachers have to advise students to come to class every day and highlight the point that each class is important and each class is a new opportunity for them to learn. Use good review techniques. So students have to plan review sessions and they have to take into consideration the type of assessment they are preparing for. For example, if they are preparing for a quiz, they have to review for 15 minutes and this time is weekly. And also, if they have to prepare for a midterm exam, they have to review for 2 to 3 hours weekly again. And then if they have to prepare for a final exam, they have to review for 5 to 8 hours. Another important aspect here is that in order to practice, students can go online and find different practices or exercises, online quizzes, online tests, and then prepare on those topics that are more difficult to them. Also, they can create static groups. What is advisable here is that students create small groups, small static groups, so that they have the opportunity to talk and share the information. And it's important to remember that having static groups does not replace studying individually. So it's also so important that students study individually. The fourth strategy is to organize pre-exams hours wisely. This has to do with reviewing the class material every day, as I mentioned before. Then students previous the class, they have to concentrate just on particular areas of difficulty, and they don't have to go all over the whole course material. And it's also important that students rest and eat adequately before the exam and the day before, that they engage into stress reducing activities such as exercise or listening to music, whatever works fine for them. Then the fifth strategy is to become familiar with instructions and formats. Here, the teacher plays a really important role. So the duty of the teacher is to use familiar language and formats in class for students to be related to the structures they're gonna find in the test. So teachers can show students rubrics and work with those specific rubrics in the class. Also discuss the language for instructions. Another important way in which teachers can do this is throughout using word formats such as bolding or italic or underline specific parts, those parts that are more important for students, and those parts that they have to pay close attention to. And something important here also is that teachers prepare students for future. Then the sixth strategy is to use strategies appropriate to the skill that has been assessed. For example, teachers first have to analyze the skills students will encounter in the test, and so, as I mentioned before, use similar formats and use similar rubrics in the class. Then teachers have to integrate strategies to develop those specific skills as a part of the teaching and learning environment. So what does this mean? What this means is that in order for students to develop a specific skill, so teachers have to provide students with opportunities to practice and to understand the vocabulary, understand the instructions, and what they intend to assess. And so teachers have to be really careful here. So they have to provide specific instructions and activities that really help students develop the skill in that specific area, the area that has been assessed. So for example, if teachers want students to develop a note-taking skill or a summarizing skill, they have to provide them with tasks that help students develop those skills. They're not gonna give students a gap filling exercise or something like that. Okay, the seventh strategy is to strategize your exam plan. This should be mandatory for students. The first aspect here is that students need to arrive early and find a seat, of course, in the exam classroom, so they're not rushing before the test and they are calm and comfortable, waiting for the test administrators to come to the class. Also, they need to check that they have all the materials needed to solve the test. This is really important. And after students get the test, they have to look at it and look at its organization and the formats. The type of questions the teachers including in the test, and see how it is organized. Another important aspect here is that they need to keep track of time and they need to distribute the time appropriately. So focus on those parts, those sections that have more value or that have more difficulty, and save time for those sections. And it's also advisable that students save some time to review the answers and check the exam after they finish. Sometimes when students are solving a test, they find a question or a specific section that is really difficult, so that they don't know how to solve it. So they don't need to focus on that. They need to continue and focus on what they really can do. So the eighth strategy is to learn from each exam experience. As a teacher, it's important to review the test results with students. So go over both the strengths and the weaknesses. But remember to do this in general. Do not refer to specific cases, do not refer to specific students, and always remember to provide feedback in a positive way. Some teachers could also suggest further practice for students to develop a certain skill or to develop more knowledge on a certain area of difficulty. And remember, students, they can always do better, that each exam is a learning opportunity for them, and they need to focus on their progress and those specific areas in which they need to work on. The last strategy is to build learners' autonomy through self-assessment. In the reading, the author mentions several aspects that, or several benefits that self-assessment gives. For example, students have the opportunity to assess their own progress and areas that need improvement. So they focus on what they have improved through the course, or what they need to focus on and work on. Then another benefit is that students look at the course content in a more significant way, since they are included in the assessment process. For example, they need to answer the question, what have I been learning? And so they really realize they are learning something and that it is significant. Moreover, students participate in their own evaluation, and they have the opportunity to share the workload, the assessment workload, with the teacher. So here their opinion is important. It's not only the teacher's opinion, but also the student's opinion that count in this assessment process. So now we're gonna move on to the self-assessment techniques and the procedures. Here we have the first two assessment techniques. The first one is cards. In this one, the objective is to establish or define short-term goals. So, for example, if you read the first line in this rubric, it says, read and understand text on a travel theme. So students are only focusing on specific course content. And This could be done between the teacher and the student or just by the student. So what students have to do when completing this type of progress card is that they read the goals and they check on those that they think they are sure they're performing successfully. And if the teacher is included in the process, he or she has to come here and check on the goals students have mastered. Okay? Then we continue with the second one, which is videotapes. In this one, the idea is for students to videotape themselves or videotape each other so that they have the opportunity to analyze and assess their communicative skills and also to go over paralinguistic skills such as body language. Okay. The next strategy is rating skills, checklists, and questionnaires. The objective of this type of self-assessment is that students perceive a general idea of their proficiency level or their ability level, and they usually use ability statements such as the student can understand and follow directions, the student can understand text on a specific topic, and all of that. Then we have student design tests. This one is actually to have students creating the test. So they are going to be aware of the test content, of the test format, and the test instructions. And this allows students to participate and take responsibility in their own assessment process. This is actually a new alternative assessment technique. Another strategy is learner diaries and dialogue journals. In this one, the objective is to have students writing about what they learned in class, their perceived level of mastery over a course content, and also what they plan to do with the new acquired skill or the new acquired content, how they're going to use it. Lastly, we have learner-centered assessment. In this one, students are actively involved through the whole process of assessment, and they help the teacher construct the assessment instruments, select the themes, and select the formats. Through these techniques, students have the possibility to reduce their test anxiety, and also they are motivated to participate in class and work in the process of, this is all from my part, and now it's your turn. Okay, go on and write a comment considering the following questions. How do you generally prepare for exams? Have you applied any of the test-taking strategies presented before? And have you experienced test anxiety? So goodbye, guys. Thank you very much for your kind attention.